you Friday evening, some communication styles. And the Four Horsemen is actually his research that we really zeroed in and shared with you. So today, we're going to share what the relationship masters do.
Yes, for too many years we were relationship disasters. And this is kind of a picture of us, I guess, as a cartoon character. And we had, like we know the Thomas Edison. What does he say? That I have not failed. I just learned 10,000 ways that don't work. We've learned 10,000 ways that don't work in relationships. So we now want to pass that on and share what doesn't work, and now with what does work.
Yes. So now we're going to start the building of the relationship. So Dr. Gottman said, until we address the fundamental need for connection and the fear of losing it, the standard techniques such as learning problem solving or communication skills, examining childhood hurts or taking time outs are misguided and ineffectual. Happy couples do not talk to each other in a more skilled or insightful way than do unhappy couples. But the difference is the need and desire for connection. You know, they did experiments. You've heard of the experiment with, babies in orphanages where they didn't touch them. They just supplied their basic needs. And what happened? They didn't thrive. Yeah, and some of them actually died because they needed that connection and they weren't able to have it. So we're the same way as adults, children of all ages. We all need to be emotionally connected.
And when there's, usually when we speak to other couples, first thing they tell us they want, what do they want? Teach us to communicate better, right? That's the first thing. And the next thing they want to do, teach us conflict resolution skills.
Teach us to fight better.
And we learned how to communicate and fight better. So, but it really is the underlying need, which this is amazing. When we get this concept, what the need or the want or desire is truly what they're asking for is, I want to be connected. I want to have a deeper conversation than just talking about superficial things, but to have that connected emotional connection.
Yes.
That's powerful. And that's a lot of times we spend our time trying to communicate better, learning these techniques, but ultimately at the end of the day, we just have to learn to connect. And we're going to show you how that steps to connect. And we're going to start off the sound relationship house. This is all the 40 years of research and several thousand couples. This is what he's come down to. These 7 principles for making a marriage work, and put it in this nice little sound relationship house. The Bible tells us in Matthew 7:24, therefore, if anyone or everyone who hears these words of mine puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. For many years, we heard the words of God in Scripture. However, we didn't necessarily put them into practice. It's when we put it into practice that's when things start to change. That's when things happen, and we become more connected. So the first level of the house is?
Building love maps. So this is finding out about each other's world. What does that look like? And on the next slide, it shows, and then the next, building love maps is the first one. Well, I was going to start explaining it, but we may as well go through the house. The next one is sharing fondness and admiration for each other.
And then turning towards instead of away, which is life-changing in our relationship. That was something that that is very powerful principle that we'll talk about.
And maintaining a positive perspective. What does that look like?
And managing conflict. So Gottman's used the term managing conflict rather than conflict resolution. My background, I hate to admit this, but I am a professional conflict resolution. I took university alternate dispute resolution. I was doing mediations and conflict resolution for a company, settling multi-million-dollar lawsuits, doing all this for work. But then I would come home and we'd have a conflict over which way to put the toilet paper, and we couldn't resolve the conflict. Because when you get into that emotional connection or disconnection or into that negative perspective, it's really hard to resolve conflict when the relationship is not connected. So we talk about managing conflict versus conflict resolution. That's a distinguished,
Yes.
so it's accepting your partner's influence and dialoguing about the problems and practice self-soothing, which we'll talk about.
Yes. You know, we're always going to have conflict in our relationships. It's just learning how to work through it. And then we're not going to have time to really get to making life dreams come true and creating shared meaning, but we'll just briefly talk about that. So the first one is building love maps. So this is where emotionally intelligent couples are intimately familiar with each other's world. So it means you're deeply aware of each other's world. So emotionally intelligent couples are intimately familiar with each other's world. Without a love map, you can't really know your loved one. And if you don't really know someone, how can you truly love them?
So an example of that, what is your favorite food? What is your favorite restaurant? What is your favorite music? What's your favorite? When we're very curious when we first start dating and we're courting, we want to know everything about their world. What do they, what their likes and dislikes? But after we get married for a while, we kind of just stop asking those questions. And sometimes those love maps change. And
They do.
Yes. So for example, for 24 years, I thought my wife's favorite flower was red roses. I mean, that's the language, that's a romantic, that's what you do on anniversaries and birthdays. You bring roses, right? Red roses. That's until finally I asked her the question.
You did, and I was glad you did.
Honey, what is your favorite flower?
A Gerber daisy.
I'd never heard of a Gerber daisy. I didn't know what a Gerber daisy was, but I soon found out. So now, instead of bringing roses, I buy Gerber daisies. And see the value of this now that she knows that I understand and I hear and really what she likes and what she loves. But also, man, there's a benefit. Gerber daisies are about half the price as roses. So it's a win-win situation, right? So knowing love maps is so important. I mean, you got to know those things, right?
So we're going to share some resources at the end, but Dr. Gottman created an app. It's the Gottman Card Deck. And he has different categories, open-ended questions, I feel, cards, and so on. We talked about, when we're in conflict, rather than expressing about what you don't appreciate about the person, you take time to express what your needs are in the situation. So this card deck, I feel, helps you work through that. So they're just little, card decks you can tap on and just spend time to have a deeper conversation, to create that deep connection and to know each other.
Psalms 139, verses 1 to 4. O Lord, you have examined my heart, and you know everything about me. You know when I sit down or stand up. You know my thoughts, even when I'm far away. You see me when I travel and when I rest at home. You know everything I do. You know what I am going to say even before I say it, Lord. When you see couples that are really connected, do you see the same kind of similar characteristics? Mm-hmm. They start to finish their sentences. They start to know everything about them. That's the intimate relationship that God wants to have with us. And that's the intimate relation he wants to have between a man and a woman. That intimate, where I know everything about, I know your world, I care, I want to know everything about you because I love and care about what you need and what you want.
So the key when we're trying to learn each other's world and what their likes are, what our dislikes are, love maps change about every 3 months. And in our children's lives, they change even more frequently because every time we experience something new, it may impact our love map world. So they can change frequently. So if Marlon says to me, where do you want to go for dinner? I might say, I want Egyptian food. He'll say, Egyptian food? Why do you want that? So I might tell him the story. The story's always so important that, my coworker went out for Egyptian food and they said it was amazing, and she knew I was vegetarian, and all of the food she had there was vegetarian. She said, you'd love it. So now, what's happened to my love map? It's changed, just because of a conversation. So this is maybe a way not to explore each other's love maps. Honey, who, I don't know who you really hang out with anymore because we've been so busy. And we seem to just hang out with each other more than anybody else. But who would your two favorite friends be right now? Or friends that you...
Paul and Thomas.
Paul and Thomas? Mm-hmm. No way.
Maybe no way, yeah.
Have you heard the way Thomas speaks to people? Especially his wife.
He's okay.
Oh, he's a jerk.
You asked me who I like to hang out with. I just told you. You don't have to be so critical and judgmental about them.
Well, I just took me by surprise. Like, you sure that's who your good friend is?
As you can see, sometimes the point of asking and knowing the love languages and knowing what she likes and dislikes is not to be critical or judgmental and start to analyze. What do you mean? Like, you don't like that? You like Italian food now? That's not good for you. It's got so high cholesterol and some of the, we start evaluating and we start to get ahead of them and we start to make these decisions or judgments. That's not how we do it.
So let's reframe it. So honey, we've been so busy and we love to spend time together, but just wanted to check in and see, who your two favorite friends are right now.
Paul and Thomas.
Paul and Thomas. Mm-hmm. Okay. You talk to them on the phone, or do you ever get together with them?
Yeah, at
lunch?
Least every 6 months.
Every 6 months?
Yeah, we're guys, we just pick up things. We're good.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. Okay, do you have any plans to get together with them in the next 6 months?
No, but reminded me that I need to give them a call.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. So quite different, right? Just listening and validating. I want you to remember the word validate. Because when we're in conversation, many times we're thinking, especially in conflict, what we're going to say next. We're not really listening. So when he says Paul and Thomas, my mind goes off, I can't believe it's Paul. Like, he's not a very nice guy, and this is going on in my mind. But instead, I'm just validating. I'm saying, okay, Paul and Thomas. Tell me, why Paul and Thomas right now in your life?
Showing interest. So I feel like she's actually interested, genuine, wants to know, right? So that's very important.
Yeah.
So we're going to get you guys to practice this. This is the fun for you guys to get involved. We're going to play the love map game. So the first question is, what was your favorite vacation and why? So whether you're with a couple or you're a couple singles or you're alone, just join in this neutral. So just have a conversation to the person next to you, whether you like him or not. Just ask him this question. What was your favorite vacation and why? And have a discussion. Just share with each other 1 minute each. Okay, go ahead.
If you didn't get a chance to finish the conversation, this is a great way to pick it up when you get home.
Or on the way home, yeah.
Yeah.
So does anybody want to share a favorite vacation and why? Come on, don't be shy. Okay, we got a couple of people. Go ahead. What was your favorite vacation and why? Mm-hmm. Victoria? And why was it your favorite?
Because it's so quaint, you might say, very English.
Hmm.
We had the beautiful flower gardens.
Ah, yes, Bouchard Gardens are beautiful.
Beautiful flower gardens. And then if you wanted to jump in the ocean,
Very nice. I saw another hand over here. Yes. Arizona. And why? What is about Arizona?
I had met this wonderful girl, and she asked me to come down with her to spend Christmas time. So I did, I made arrangements and was able to get there. And I guess the real reason why is because that's where I proposed. 21 years later.
Congratulations.
That's wonderful.
That's a good vacation. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. So take the time to ask some very basic questions like, what's your favorite color? Yeah, what is your favorite color, honey?
Pink.
Pink? Oh, okay. Can you just tell me why?
Well, ever since you bought that new outfit, it's pink. Just, wow, you look amazing. You look pretty in pink. So yeah, it's my new favorite color.
Thanks. So love maps are super important to spend time updating them. You know, at least monthly on one of your date nights, just to ask some questions and make sure that you're up to date with what's going on in each other's world.
And friendship is the key to a relationship. Sometimes we forget it's such a simple foundational principle, but you know, just having that friendship. And when we were not even dating, we were just friends. We had created that friendship. And that is such a fundamental thing that we need to remind ourselves. And so become friends again and just be curious about one another. Ask those questions and be genuinely interested in what your other partner
So
likes.
these two principles, we're going to move on to number 2, but love maps and then sharing fondness and admiration. These are the two principles that really build a sound friendship. So you can imagine you're curious, you're finding out about each other's world, and then you're showing appreciation and fondness. So they're the most crucial elements in a rewarding and long-lasting relationship. So how many times do we share what we appreciate about each other? This is something that should be done daily.
You mean
Daily.
not yearly?
No, not just birthdays and, anniversaries. And not just in a card.
It's one of the things we start forgetting after we've been married for a couple of years. We, at the beginning and when we're dating and when we're in a relationship, we're always constantly expressing fondness and admiration, everything. We appreciate each other and we're just so appreciative of everything. But after a couple of years, everything's taken for granted. We just go to work and she expects that I do this and I expect her to do that. And, we just, those common courtesies and those being
Common
thankful.
routine.
Yeah. We start expressing, even though I may think it, a lot of times we don't express it. And love without expression starts to die. So
Expression is putting love into action. And sometimes it feels a little awkward at the start, but it starts to get better. So when I see Marlon, I like to catch Marlon doing something special or something good because I was so critical for so many years. So now it's like, honey, I just appreciate that, I get home late and you seem to always be making supper. And that Greek salad you made the other day, you put some black beans on it. When I ate it, it was so good.
You like that?
I loved it.
Oh,
So
okay.
please make that again.
I will.
But yeah, I just appreciate that you don't complain that I'm not cooking supper anymore, and you just take on that role. Yeah, makes me feel loved.
Good, I'm glad.
So was that simple? Yeah, it was. And then I saw him maybe interacting with someone and being really compassionate. And that's that tender heart that first drew me to him that I'm seeing again. So I might say, honey, I just kind of overheard your conversation on the phone when you were talking with that person, and just kind of melted my heart the way you were so compassionate and listening and understanding. And that's one thing I really love about you.
Thank you.
So is that difficult? No.
Sometimes it's difficult to accept, right? Sometimes we're not used to
Yeah.
hearing appreciation, fondness, and admiration. And we kind of, oh, no, I don't think that way, or that's not me.
Yeah.
Or we almost reject the admiration because we don't feel we're worthy. So again, just saying thank you. Thanks. Instead of, oh, I don't feel that way, or I don't, how do you, yeah.
Yeah. And one area this often where we reject is when somebody says, my husband would say, you look so beautiful, or I'll say, you look so handsome. Sometimes that feels really awkward for some people to take that in and say, oh, okay, thank you, instead of saying,
You're delirious.
you're
is what
delirious. Yeah. You think I'm beautiful? You're delirious, right? I'm aging. How could I be beautiful to you? Right? So these thoughts can go through our mind, but we can rewrite what we were wanting to say at first and reframe it and say, thank you. I'm so happy that you still think I'm beautiful to you.
I like this landmark study that was done by Ted Houston of the University of Texas, where it says, when relationships fail, it is not increasing conflict that is the cause. It is decreasing affection and emotional responsiveness that is the cause. Sometimes we think the conflict is the problem, or the conflict's the problem, but it's actually the decreasing emotional connection and expressing fondness and admiration
Yes.
is actually the cause of the conflict.
And showing interest in each other. Asking those questions to create deeper conversation is so important.
So Proverbs 16:24, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. Again, when we give those words of fondness and admiration, it's like honey.
Yes.
It's healthy. So we're going to give you an opportunity to, I appreciate the person beside you. So this may be difficult if you haven't done it for a while, but you tell the person or a loved one next to you something that you appreciate or admire about them. So we're going to give you a minute each to tell them, person beside you, what it is that you admire, appreciate, or are fond of. Okay.
So I want to give you a little tip. When you're sharing fondness and admiration or appreciation, when you share it about someone's character, it seems to mean more to that person. So when I gave Marlon a compliment, or I appreciated the character quality of him being, listening so well and giving encouragement, how did that feel as opposed to about something that you did for me?
Felt really nice.
Yeah, it feels good because you're noticing who I am as opposed to maybe what I do. They're both important, but complimenting someone's character is just going the next level for creating connection. So
Here,
go ahead and,
Let me try. Here, I'll show you how it's done. Just, men, you may need a little help here. This is okay.
I never know what he's going to do sometimes.
Honey, I just want to tell you, you have beautiful thighs like a cow.
Pardon me?
You have beautiful thighs like a cow.
That's not a compliment. Cows' thighs are huge. You're getting me flustered.
Oh.
Do you think I have big thighs?
No, as I was talking to my Rwandan friends at Calgary Central, they told me that was the most highest compliment you could pay to a woman, is to tell her she had thighs.
Where is your friend?
I don't know, are they here today? I don't know. There's George and Dennis here. Where are they? So, anyways, I came, after sleeping on the couch for a week, I came back to church, and I went up to him, and they said, "So did you try? Did you tell her?" I said, "Yeah, I told her," and it was not good. She was offended. And I said, "What did you say?" I said, "I told you exactly what you said. I said, you have beautiful thighs like a cow." And they go, "No, not eyes. Beautiful eyes like a cow." See, eyes in that culture, beautiful big eyes, I guess that is a compliment. So, when you get the right word is very important.
Very important, yes.
So I learned my lesson the hard way.
You did.
So you can go ahead now, practice the right way to do an appreciation or admiration to the person that's sitting next to you. Stress relief.
Happy to be.
Did you mute or is
This is one of the activities I love to watch, because do you know what we see from our perspective? We see a lot of smiling faces and a little bit of giggling, and so it creates joy, doesn't it? And we get to see all that joy when you truly participate in this activity. So keep this up daily. Think about, and even journal it. If it's not a habit, maybe even just journaling it when you do your devotions or putting it into your phone. What do I appreciate about this person in my life, or my child, or whatever it is? And then next time you talk to them, speak those words.
And it's one of those things as you're focusing on those things, you actually start to believe them. You actually start to express them more. It actually becomes part of it. Because we're so focused sometimes on the things that we do wrong or the things that annoy me.
Yes.
When we start focusing on those fondness and appreciation, it actually changes our thoughts and our feelings towards that person as well. All right, so relationships are kind of like buying a car, right? So there's many different shapes. There's many different sizes and models to choose from. I chose a really nice, beautiful 1960s sporty model. Bit of a rough ride, a little bumpy ride. Kind of likes to steer a little mind of his own. When you first buy that car, you just want to spend so much time driving and you just want to be a part of that car, right? You're just in love with it. But after a while, the car starts to get a few, squeaks and rattles. Yes, maybe a few parts need to be replaced. Maybe the lights aren't as bright anymore and you can't see out the window, they're a little dim. And maybe, the muffler is a little louder and the exhaust fumes start to, be a little bit more, the engine light's on. And you be thinking, oh man, this car's getting a little old. Needs a little paint, a little Bondo, little suspension kit. We start going and we say, you know what? Maybe it's time to trade it in. Maybe we need another model. We start driving the billboards. Oh, look at that new. Oh, you see the car go. Oh, wow, look at that couple. Look at that car. Wow, that's a beautiful car. And the grass always seems to be greener. It's like, oh, that new car. Ooh, wouldn't it be nice to have a new car? We have this. We start playing with this idea. And even nowadays, some people don't even buy a car. They just want to lease it for a couple and trade it back in because they don't want to commit. these two cars are, I don't even know what kind of models they are. Anybody a car buff here? Who said that? Man, Junior. That's right. You know it, man. Okay. And what's the bottom one? Okay. Still a Ferrari. Yes, it's a new Ferrari. Yeah. So how much do you think the brand new car in the bottom is worth? How much? Okay. Anybody else have a guess? How much? Okay. Close. $500,000 US. Now, one of my love languages is gifts, so if anybody has a spare 500 US, I would be happy to drive one of those cars. So how much do you think the car in the top? 10 million. 70 million. Wow, JR. Juniors, that's okay. What if I told you that in 1964, this car won the Tour de France automobile? What if I told you it won it 9 years in a row? Would it increase the value? What if I told you it was only 36 of them ever made? Would that increase the value? What if I told you that was the only one left? How much do you think it would be worth now? You guys are good. $100 million. Isn't that amazing? $100 million. But yet we'll be willing to trade that car for a new car. You know, if we would only invest in our cars, in our relationships, when the engine light is on, we go get a checkup and we go to a doctor, we get it fixed, right? We take that time and we invest in it. And have you ever seen somebody driving a classic car? You see the pride and the joy he gets on his face when he's driving it? You can't beat that. Why? Because the history of the car and the investment. You know, you talk to anybody that's restored a car, it's the amount of time and money, they'll never be able to sell it for what they've got into it. But it's that joy because they put in the time, the money, and they get the most joy out of that car. So, you know, I encourage you to not trade in your car, to invest in the car that you've already bought and to put the time and investment in it and replace those leaky mufflers.
Honey, thanks for being my classic.
Oh, thank you for being my sporty, Ferrari. Oh, right.
So the third principle of building happy relationships is the concept of turning towards each other. But we can also choose to turn away from each other, or we can choose to turn against each other. So turning against each other would be showing contempt or stonewalling, which we talked about is where we just shut down. And we're not a part of the conversation anymore, and pretty soon we're not a part of the relationship over time. And then turning away is literally turning away your attention. So in conflict, what do we like to do? We like to get up and we like to walk away. Or we like to go out for a drive, go out for a run, whatever it may be. And it's okay. We talked about self-soothing and how important that is when we have a conflict and to have a time apart. But turning away isn't looking like that. Turning away is where you turn away and you don't return to the conversation. And that's like that conversation never happened and those hard feelings remain there. So you can see this picture here. She comes home, they're watching a movie, and she gets her popcorn and she's eating, and her husband is on the couch, and he doesn't look very happy, does he? So turning away could be just to ignore. Like, he's being really high needs again. I just can't go there, so we just keep doing what we want to do. Or we could turn towards, we could say, honey, you look a little down. Tell me about it.
The Flames lost again in the playoffs.
Oh, okay. That really got you down.
Yes.
Okay.
She's sad.
Well, do you want to do something fun?
Oh, sure. What would you like to do?
I don't know. Do you want me to make some popcorn for you too, and we can, I don't know, watch a movie together?
Sounds good.
Okay. So turning towards is noticing when the person in our life, our child, our friend, our partner, noticing when they need our attention. And then during conflict, turning toward is literally turning toward and caring about their heart.
So science is showing that relationship masters turn towards each other 86% of the time. And relationship disasters only turn towards each other 33% of the time. So we really want to learn how to turn towards. So we need to recognize what? The bids for connection.
Yeah. So a bid is an attempt that a person makes to connect with someone. It might be a gesture, verbal or nonverbal, for positive connection. So maybe engaging in conversation or humor, affection, or asking for support. So that's what bids can look like. So a bid could be, I walk in the door and my husband just comes up to me because he knows we talked on the phone. He knows that I've had a rough day. I walk in and I go to the kitchen and I'm looking kind of sad. And I just look at him and I say, can I have a hug?
Sure.
Is that a bid for connection? Yeah, I just need some soothing. So that would be a non-verbal kind of look at a bid, which is affection.
Hey, honey, would you like to go to Banff tomorrow?
Okay.
Okay. It doesn't sound like you really want to go.
No, if you want to go, we'll go.
No, do you want to go to Banff tomorrow? I know I want to go to Banff.
Yes, let's go to Banff.
Not if you're going to be like that. I don't want to go to Banff. If you're just going to be...
You want to go to Banff, so I want to go
Yeah,
to Banff.
but-
Let's go.
Okay, fine. What was it in the bid that was... What did you hear? Did she really want to turn towards the bid? No, it was kind of a half-hearted, oh, okay, we'll go if you really want to go, right? It wasn't really accepting the bid. It was a half-hearted. So what would be a better way or more enthusiastic type of bid and turning towards? So, hey, honey, would you like to go to Banff tomorrow?
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, okay, good. How about we leave at 8 o'clock? Would that be work?
Could we sleep in just a half an hour later? Maybe leave at 10:30.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay,
So I know we knives packed.
Yes,
We're going to go on a hike, right?
yes.
Okay, I'll make sure we have our apples and our jackknives so we can eat our
perfect.
apples at the top. But
Okay.
I know you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, because you're the peanut butter that sticks us together.
You're so cute. But I would prefer like one of those tofu egg salad sandwiches. You
Okay.
okay if I make something
That'd be
different?
fine. That'd be excellent.
Okay.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, this will be good.
So, what was the difference? Did she accept the bid and turn towards it more enthusiastically, more interested? A lot of times in a relationship, people ask us, you know, I don't feel like they are really wanting to do the bid or they want to turn towards it. And I said, okay, that's okay, but turn towards it anyway. But turn towards, if we turn towards it begrudgingly or not with our whole heart, it's not going to be very well received. And if, you know, you're doing the hike and they're kind of like, oh, are we done yet? But when we're interested in our spouse, what she's interested in, I am interested in. What I'm interested in, she's interested in. So, you know, we need to start being interested in what the other person likes and enjoys for activities and not to do it. So one example is craft shows. I couldn't stand craft shows. Every December, every November, it's like, oh, there's a craft show.
I would make the bid, honey, can we go?
No, I think I have a
Come
root
on.
canal, please. I did not want to go to root canal. All right.
To a craft show
Craft
either.
show. But you know what? I accepted the bid, and I decided, you know, if this is something that really is interesting and my wife really likes, you know what? I'm going to accept that bit. I'm going to learn to appreciate and enjoy that with it. So now I actually, men don't listen to this, but I actually love going to craft shows with my wife. You know, and it's actually an opportunity. My two love languages are quality time and physical touch. So we get to go to a craft show. We go for dinner, we hold hands, we're out for the evening, we're spending quality time talking, we're having fun. And now I'm usually the one that comes home with stuff. So I've actually embraced it. So we can change because it was important to her. I learned to love it because I love her and made it for, you know, so that's again, we can change and our love maps can be updated and our interests can change when we're connected.
It's so true. And did you notice how we incorporated something that he likes to do in the evening? We went out for dinner. So I am looking for ways to make it inviting for him as well. So on our hike, I know he likes peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I maybe didn't want to go for the hike that day, but I know it's important to him. So I make something that I enjoy, that I can look forward to for food, because I'm a foodie. So you put something in there, and maybe on the way home I make a bid. Maybe we can stop and we can go out for dinner at our favorite restaurant in Canmore on our way home. So can you get the picture? It might not be something you want to do, but you can still enjoy it because you know it's what your spouse enjoys or your child or your friend enjoys.
Okay, the next slide is for the men, just so you know, if you turn towards that bid and you actually go to the craft shows and you enjoy it, this makes it worth it. Continual turning toward your loved one creates the foundation of trust, emotional connection, passion, and a satisfying, I made this PG, but you can fill in the blank with a 3-letter word, life. So men, see, if you actually take the time to turn towards and you go to those craft shows, you will have a more satisfying, there'll be more passion, there'll be romance, and you will have more physical intimacy.
Yes.
So, you know, just again, it's that turning towards that makes us feel loved and connected and creates that emotional bond or connection that really what we really want in a relationship is, right? It's that emotional connection.
That's right.
So now we're going to do the bid quiz, and we're going to give you guys a chance to what is a bid and what does it look like? So which of the following are a bid for connection? I need a hug.
Is that a bid? Okay. Hey, Mom and Dad, can you come and build a fort with me? Yeah, bid for connection?
Wow, work was really tough today.
Is that a bid? Yes. Honey, can you take out the garbage for me?
Not a chance.
Yeah, does that create connection? It can, absolutely, especially if your love language is acts of service.
I never understand that one, but
You do now. You're teasing.
Do you have time to cook supper with me tonight?
Is that a bid to connect? Yeah. Can you come play with me?
Sure can.
So what does play look like? Does it go playing pickleball, floating down the river? What does it look like in your life? Fun and play are so important, but over time, that's one of the things that gets pushed aside. So what does play look like for you? So that is a bid. Where are we?
Your loved one winks at you across the room.
What do you think? Is that a bid for connection? Did you see my friend's Instagram post today? It was so cool. Yeah, that's a bid to stop, come and look and see.
Your loved one looks sad. Exactly. So you guys passed the quiz. Excellent. One of our favorite texts is Psalms 143, verses 7 to 9. A psalm from David. Come quickly, Lord, and answer me, for my depression deepens. Don't turn away from me, or I will die. Let me hear of your unfailing love each morning, for I am trusting you. Show me where to walk, for I give myself to you. Rescue me from my enemies, Lord. I run to you to hide me.
Do you see the language we've been talking about? Turning towards, hearing unfailing love, that fondness and admiration. And one of the walls of the sound relationship house is trust. You know, trust looks different to everybody. When we think of breaking trust, we usually think of big things that happen. But in our relationship, it was little things. You know, I needed a man who would get things done for me. And Marlon happened to be very laid back. He's the opposite temperament of me. So it did pose a challenge. So when I would ask him to change the light bulb in the hallway that burned out,
sure, I'll change the light bulb.
he would, but then I'd remind him the next week. Then I'd remind him the next week.
I'm getting to it.
Yeah.
You didn't say when.
Exactly.
Right.
But it broke down trust in our relationship.
She really
So-
meant change the light bulb now.
That's right. But I didn't say it that way because now I know, honey, can you change the light bulb today? Right? And I'll even say, I'll help you. I'll help you with the ladder. Let's do it together to make sure it gets done. So you can see how if we don't follow through with what we say we're going to do, I did the same thing with him because I started to give up. So he would say, can we go do something fun? I'd say, sure. But I wouldn't make an effort to make sure it happened. So then he didn't have trust that I actually wanted to spend time with him and that I actually wanted to do things with him. So you can see how trust can look different, and breaking trust in a relationship can look different. It can be those small little things, you know, those little foxes that come in and steal that joy and that love.
Principle number 4. Principle number 4 is actually an accumulation of the first 3 principles. So when we are building love maps and we're curious and we're getting to know each other, and when we're expressing fondness and admiration and appreciation, and we're turning towards the bids, it creates this positive sentiment override. And this is where a healthy emotional connection is in there. And now, if I make a mistake, it's not fatal, because I have an emotional account. Instead of having been bankrupt, now I have a bit of extra. So she has a little bit more mercy and grace with me.
Yes.
And so this positive perspective, there's a ratio of 20 to 1. So when we're just normally communicating and have interaction, it's a 20 to 1. So 20 positives to 1
Interactions.
negative interaction. And when we're in a conflict, that ratio still maintains a 5 to 1 ratio of positive to negative. Oh, it was in there. So we still want to maintain that 5 to 1 even during conflict, because conflict, usually it goes out the window. We become very negative. And when we become, in our relationship, when we had for so many years, when we weren't turning towards the bids, when I wasn't changing the light bulbs, and I wasn't taking out the garbage, and we weren't connected, and we had this disconnection, we were in a negative sentiment override. And no matter what I did, whatever I said, I would even bring flowers home, she would just kind of, she would not accept them. And she, oh, did you just get those from Safeway? Were they free? Well, yeah, they were free. It doesn't matter. I mean, they were extra buy, and I just brought them home. It's just, I don't know, she used to get upset about that.
Yeah, you know, when your husband takes the time to buy flowers rather than bring them home from work. Ladies, do you think that would be different? It's the intention, right? Yeah. So he learned that I still like him to bring flowers home from work that are free because it's a good deal. I like that too.
But now that we're in a positive perspective,
Yes, it is different for sure. So now when he buys me flowers, he'll say, yes, I picked these up for you, especially for you, honey. So I know the
accept free
difference.
flowers anymore, no.
But what does a positive interaction look like in a day? So we're going to run through a day.
We are?
We
Not in the
are.
notes.
To show what positive interactions look like. So we need 20 of them in a day. So I'm going to wake up, might roll over and give my husband a kiss on the cheek and greet him in the morning. Then after that, he goes downstairs and he makes my brain healthy drink for me every morning. And it's waiting for me when I come down. And then after that, we have a little discussion about the day. We check in with each other and we communicate. Then after that, we give each other a hug as we part and leave our ways, and maybe even a kiss. So how many, are you counting the interactions? Then from there, I might text him and say, honey, I haven't told you this week, but I love you. And then after that, maybe on the way home, we call each other and we talk about the couple that we're going to meet with this evening and how we're going to try and instill motivation and hope in their marriage and what we're going to talk about. Then from there, when we're done with that, maybe we take 20 minutes, 30 minutes to talk about, the next day and to connect about our day to day. So you can see how the interactions, they're all positive. And we don't realize how many positive interactions we do have in a day. But during conflict, what would 5 positive interactions look like? You just think you're angry, you're upset. So what could that look like when you're in conflict? It could be just turning towards and listening, having eye contact.
And in the next session, we'll talk about a repair attempt and what that looks
Yeah.
like. So let's take
Validation.
a 5-minute break, and then we will do the last presentation on conflict to connection.
Yes.
So take a 5 minutes, and then we will resume. Stretch. Where's the next one?
So this is the one you've all been waiting for. How to go from conflict to connection. How do you navigate conflict and still stay connected or reconnect even through conflict? And that's a big question.
Dr. Julie Gottman says this: conflict is an opportunity to learn to love each other better over time. Does that sound true? Or does that sound difficult? It depends on how we've been brought up. Everybody views. We were talking to a couple just last week. She viewed conflict as something stressful that didn't happen in the home. She never saw it. When there was conflict, she was like,
Yeah.
something's wrong, it's serious, and marriage is going to come to an end, and it would stress her out. Whereas the gentleman, he actually, conflict was normal. That's what his parents did. They just were conflict every day. You would notice it in just how they communicated. So he had a very aggressive kind of style. Conflict was healthy. But so how we have our different views of what that conflict is like when we come together can make a big difference. But ultimately, if we can look at it as a growth opportunity and to come through it with being closely connected.
So this was one of their discussions. How do we navigate through conflict without shutting down? So what would happen during conflict? She would stonewall and she would shut down completely, and he would become increasingly more elevated to make sure that she heard him as she moved away. It went like this. So they wanted to know how they could just be at level playing field during conflict. And one thing they discovered is understanding the story, each other's stories behind the conflict. So for her, he had no idea how she viewed conflict. And she knew how he did, but he didn't ask the question until we're in our coaching sessions. And he discovered, this makes complete sense now, why she retreats and turns away during conflict. So then what do you think the next question would be? What can I do to make our situations of conflict, which are going to be inevitable, a safe environment for you not to pull away and shut down? So they started to have these deep conversations, and they had some aha moments where now they can communicate. She said, I just need you to lower your voice. I need you to have that soft startup so that I'm not tempted to retreat. And then I just need you to let me speak. Because as she pulled away, he would speak more and more and more and more to try and get the point across. So do you see how it's important to understand the story? Why are we having this conflict? What's your story?
When we were in a really bad place, and one of the things to repair our relationship, one of the things that I use this is the solution to most problems. Step away from the problems and spend your time and energy connecting and building your friendship through positive interactions. For a time period, I had to write down all our problems, put them in a little box, and step away for a time. Because, as we said a little bit earlier, when you don't have a good relationship and you're disconnected, constant conflict, it's hard to resolve the conflict when the person is your enemy. What we need to do, and even when I do negotiations and settlement conferences, you build the relationship, you build the connection, you build understanding, you build that team approach so that when you then eventually deal with the conflict, you're now on the same team. You're not enemies trying to resolve the conflict. And Dr. Gottman talks about conflict. How many percent do you think of conflict, how much percentage of conflict is not resolvable? If you were to say you have conflict in your relationship, how much percentage of that is actually not resolvable? Anybody want to guess? How much?
80.
10? 69% of conflict is not resolvable. And what do you think we do in our relationships? We talk about those unresolvable conflicts, and we go over and over and over. It's like, and that's what my wife said, I'm tired of dealing with the conflict. I just want off this crazy cycle because it's so stressful, because that's all. Every time we go through and do something, we talk about the conflict. We talk about over and over, and we're going in a cycle, and we never realize that, they're perpetual problems. They're not resolvable. So when we decided to put those problems aside and start dating again, start building the connection, focusing on those first 3 levels of the relationship house of fondness and appreciation, turning towards
knowing
and building,
each other.
Building that friendship again.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what happened to most of those problems?
We don't know where they went.
I don't even know where the box is anymore, so I don't know what half of them were, but they were serious at the time. But when we have the connection, so the problem isn't always the problem. The problem is the disconnection and the way we feel towards each other that creates a lot of the conflict.
That's right. Yeah. So if 2 people have unfriendly feelings toward each other, they take offense at anything and everything between them. So this is that negative perspective or that negative sentiment override that we talked about. So harsh feelings are not the outcome of a quarrel, they are the cause of the quarrel. So when we're in a negative perspective and we think about those in our life in a negative way, we're always seeing their character traits that we don't like, what they do that we don't like, what they say what we don't like, and that's our focus. It totally destroys and disconnects relationships. So what's the opposite of all of that? Be noticing what they do right. Noticing the positive character qualities. Noticing what they say that is right. And then showing them when we notice it, that we appreciate it.
In James 1, verses 2-4, dear husband and wives, when troubles of any kind come your way, consider it an opportunity for great joy. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow, for when your endurance is fully developed, you will be perfect and complete, needing nothing. Do you want character development? Is a relationship, Gary Thomas, have you read the book Sacred Marriage? In that book he says, what if God designed marriage not to make us happy, but to make us holy? And I believe he did it for both. He created that pleasure and that happiness, but he also designed to grow our characters, having 2 different people, 2 different personalities coming together and learning to connect and care about and become one. That's the greatest challenge on the face of the earth, and it's the greatest joy or it can be the greatest curse. But the choice is ours, and we can treat it as an opportunity for great joy, because that conflict creates, I now learn more about my spouse, and I know how now I can care for her in a different way, in a different level.
Yes. So part of conflict is caused by not accepting influence. So what this means is I don't let Marlon influence my decisions, or he doesn't let me influence him. So an example of this is I'm a list maker. So I would make my list for the next day, and I would put it on the island, and then in the morning Marlon would see it, and he'd look through it and he'd go, oh, so I see you're making a few stops, but why don't you do this stop with this stop?
Husbands never touch a wife's list. It's not healthy for your health and for your marriage.
And I would say, just leave my list alone. Like, this is the order of how I need to do it. You know what?
Sorry.
Like, do you want to be happy?
or do I want to be right? I'll take happiness.
Yeah. So instead, was I accepting influence from him? No, I wasn't. He was trying to tell me something. And if I would have just stopped and become curious and asked him, tell me why you would suggest that, because maybe it's a good idea that I need to, do it that way. So why would you suggest that I stop at, the grocery store before
Is this a trick
going
question?
to get gas?
Setting me up for failure?
No. But anyways, you can see how I'm being curious. Instead of just
Right.
turning away and not accepting influence, I'm thinking, okay,
Maybe he has a good point.
this is not a threat, to my day, and I'm going to find out the story that he has to tell me, because there might be something really good there that I need to accept influence from him about. And it could be that, he didn't realize that I needed to stop at Jane's house to pick something up in between, but it wasn't on my list. So if I tell him the rest of the story, he might say, oh, yeah, that makes sense why your list is that way. So you can see how we don't take the time to become curious and find out the story and how it would alleviate conflict. So accepting influence, did we go through all those points?
Not accepting influence. There's an 81% divorce rate when husbands are not willing to share their power with their wife. And the wife is more likely to respond harshly and escalate the conflict. A lot of times, men, statistically showing in science, is that we have a harder time accepting influence from our wives, right? But that's just a statistic showing that, there's potentially an 81% divorce rate when we don't accept that influence or share that power. So again, we need to listen to our wives and hear them and understand them, and not just say, I'm the boss.
So I was one of the other 19% of women that did not accept influence. So women, we can be as well not accepting influence from our children, from our friends, from our husband. And so it's important to recognize what that looks like and to give each other grace when you're trying to figure this out. You may say, oh, did I just catch myself not accepting influence from you? Or are you accepting influence from me at this moment?
And it's best not to point it out if they're not accepting influence from you, because then you're critiquing them. So sometimes when you learn this stuff, you say, oh, you're not accepting influence from me, honey. That doesn't work very well either.
Well, unless you've agreed upon it, right? So you talk about it and you say, what, all these things that we learned about this weekend, we give each other permission to gently, with soft startup, to bring them to the front so we can start working on them, we can recognize them. The first step to change within relationships is self-awareness. So this weekend, we hope that relationships are becoming self-aware as you're listening as to what's happening in our relationship specifically. How can we change it?
Here are 6 ways the Gottmans show that we can help to manage conflict. One is we use a gentle startup. And again, he can, over 90% accuracy, if the conversation starts with a harsh startup, he can predict within that 95% accuracy of divorce. So again, it's having that gentle startup and accepting responsibility and using I feel, I need versus you always, you never, starting with that harsh startup. So we want to start off with that gentle startup.
And then next, the second most important step is to accept influence. Recognize if we are accepting influence or if we're not. And what does it look like to accept influence within your relationships?
Listen to underlying dreams and feelings. And we'll share in a little bit. I was not very good at listening to my wife's dreams. The next one is?
Compromise. What does that look like?
Or self-soothing.
What does that look like for you? And then repairing and de-escalating the conflict. What does a repair attempt look like? We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
So what are the 3 types of problems there are? There's the solvable problems, problems that are about something situational, and the solution usually we can found relatively easy. We have the perpetual problems. Those are difference in personality or lifestyle that keep on coming over and over and over. And then lastly, we have gridlock problems. These are perpetual problems that have been mishandled and turned into gridlock and seemingly no solution. And often there's hidden agendas that are usually underlie the issue.
So that's when we're not accepting influence, we're not turning towards. All the first three levels of the sound relationship house are not present in the relationship any longer. And then we come to this gridlock where we just can't get out of it, we can't move, we can't even find a solution, and we sometimes don't even desire to get out of the gridlock. So how can you solve your solvable problems? So we talked about accepting influence from each other, turning towards each other rather than away or against each other, and then continue to work on the 4 horsemen antidotes. So there were prescriptions for those 4 conversation styles to turn them into something positive. And then remember to seek to understand rather than be understood. So you're looking for the solutions, but you're looking to I'm looking to understand Marlon rather than him understanding me. That's a big difference, isn't it? Often we want to be understood before we want to understand the other person.
So this morning, Doreen and I had a little bit of a conflict, and we need your help.
Mm-hmm.
So there was only 1 lemon left, and we were having this conflict over who would get it.
Yeah.
She really wanted it, I really wanted it, and we just couldn't come. So we still have neither of us have it right now, so we still have the 1 lemon. And at Sabbath, we can't go buy another one. So we need your help. Who's going to get the lemon? If somebody could help us come up with a solution to who should get the lemon? Cut it in half.
Cut it in half?
Okay, that's one option. That's 50-50. Yeah, what's the other options? Give it away to somebody else. So neither. So we both lose. Okay, what are some other options? Pardon me? Make lemonade, and we both drink it and we're sourpuss. Yeah. Okay. Make lemonade. What's some other options?
Find out who needs it the most.
Pardon me?
Find out which person needs it the most.
I need it the most, obviously.
No, I need it the
No,
most.
So give it to her. So, okay. Awesome. Okay, you guys are pretty good. So I'm going to show you the conflict model. There's a 5-stage. Hey, Junior, you can come up and explain this. You're pretty good. You did the Peacemakers course. This is pretty awesome stuff. We were sharing this out. So it's the Thomas
so
Kilman.
what was the solution?
Oh, I'm going to share this.
Oh, okay.
So the Thomas Kilman conflict model. So there's 5 conflict management styles that we use to resolve conflict. So we talked about a few of them. So we talked about compromising. That's in the middle. That's where it's 50-50. We both partially win, right? That's in the middle. That's compromising. Somebody said that the first one. Somebody said that nobody gets it. So that's the avoiding part. Both lose, right? And then somebody also said that we would give the other person. That's the accommodation in the bottom right. And I don't know if anybody just take the lemon, you keep it. I don't think you guys are all pretty good because you know that would be trouble. So the competition or the competing one, and you know what, that's probably the most common, is that we've grown up in a competitive world, and is that win-lose. And when I first started in my negotiations and my risk conflict resolution, I wanted to win. I wanted to win that negotiation, that mediation, right? We have that mentality in sports. We want to win. It doesn't feel good to lose, so we tend to oftentimes go into the competing. So we've talked about 4 options. We didn't talk about one more option. Collaborating in the top right corner. This is where the best opportunities for growth are. So you can see on the bottom, it says relationship, low and high. And then on the left is the goal. So if we have the goal is very high, we focus on the goal, we typically are more in that competing, and we're not worried about the relationship. I want to win, you're going to lose. But if we're concerned about the relationship, then maybe I move to the high relationship, I may be accommodating, and that's where I just give her the lemon to resolve the conflict, and I lose and she can win, right? I'm accommodating. But after time, if we always are giving in or always giving away, sometimes bitterness and resentment can grow. And it'd be, I always, there's a time and place. So all these styles are happening in a mix of a relationship. But how would you come to a win-win where we both would have won? And this is where it comes in, what Gottmans are talking about, is this is called dialogue. And this is seeking to understand them being understood. So the more I can talk about and learn and understand
The story.
So honey, so what exactly do you need the lemon for?
Oh, well, I wanted to make some muffins. Some lemon cranberry muffins.
Okay, so what exactly, how do you make the cranberry muffins? What do you need?
I just need the juice. No,
Oh,
actually, I need the rind. I'm
okay.
sorry.
So you need the rind.
I do,
You don't
yeah.
actually need the juice.
No, because I can use extract for that.
Ah, okay, well, I just need the juice. I don't need the rind. I just want to make a lemon juice for my drink that I make in the morning with all,
Oh.
my flaxseed and all the good stuff. So,
So I can make those cranberry muffins. Would you like one?
oh,
A
that sounds
lemon
great.
cranberry?
When we start to dialogue and understand what the actual she needed versus what I needed, then we create an understanding where we can get to collaboration and where we both win 100%. So is that possible all the time? Not necessarily, but that should be our goal, to have that dialogue, to have those discussions, to be asking. A lot of times we just don't do that. We automatically assume there's boom, split it 50-50, or we go to the first solutions that come to hand. But now if we start to dig deeper and to really understand the person, we may be able to come to that collaboration, which the study shows that during conflict, the collaboration conflict management style has the highest correlation with both marital satisfaction and spousal satisfaction with conflict management in marriage. In contrast, where one or both of the spouses use the competitive conflict management style, the lowest marital satisfaction was reported. This was a National Institute of Health study. So we can see, if we are not relationship-oriented and we're goal-oriented and we focus on that competitive style, it's going to damage the relationship. But if we're focused on that collaborative side and trying to have that win-win, and that you're important to me, I really want your needs to be met as well as mine, and we're on the same side in the same team, it can really make a difference of building that connection instead of disconnecting during conflict.
It's an amazing feeling to be on the same team, and to have a communication style where it doesn't turn into conflict any longer. Yeah. So seek first to understand and then to be understood. That's the golden rule when you have any discussions. What's the story? Be curious. Find out what the needs are. What are the fears? What are the dreams that are behind it?
We love this text in Philippians 2:2-4. Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one mind and one purpose. Does that sound like collaboration? And don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out only for your own interests, but take an interest in others also. Isn't that powerful? If we would use this as a conflict resolution style, it would resolve a lot of conflict.
Don't you just love when science backs up the Bible? The Bible's been around for how long, and science is coming along and saying, yeah, just like the Bible says, this is what you need to do. That excites me. So pride leads to conflict. Those who take advice are wise. Proverbs 13:10. What does pride look like? For each one of us, it's different. But we can tell you that in our relationship, when we were in a negative perspective, it was because pride ruled. It took over. The I in the pride. I focus on me, focus on my pain, rather than focusing on my husband's pain. That's Christ's model. What does he do? He always comes and he focuses on our heart and our pain.
There's an amazing quote, and I think it's in Messages to Young People, that says, if we were to let go of selfishness and pride, most conflicts would be resolved in 5 minutes.
The 5-minute conflict.
That's our model now, is the 5-minute rule, the 5-minute conflict model.
I think we've made it to 10 minutes. But it's amazing when you know how to navigate conflict. You know how to care about what the other person is trying to say and to ask what the story is behind it so that you're understanding. The conflict virtually just dissipates within minutes of taking those steps and accepting influence, turning towards, soft startup, implementing all of those. And as you practice them, they're going to become a habit. It's going to be your new conversation style. And you'll notice how much better relationships become. So happy couples, a happy couple's secret weapon is repair attempts. So this is any statement or action, verbal, physical, or otherwise, meant to diffuse negativity and keep conflict from escalating out of control. There's a story. What this looks like, a repair attempt, is individual in each one of your relationships. With my children, it might look a certain way. With Marlon, it might look another way. Some people use humor. Some people might make a comment of, okay, we're not going to go here, are we? And then we might hug and then talk about it a little bit. So it could be that physical interaction where you just grab each other and say, okay, we're going to calm down. Or Marlon might just kind of wink at me, whatever it is to diffuse it. That is a repair attempt.
You look so hot when you're upset.
Yeah, yeah. So I start to laugh, right? Like, oh, okay, your humor again. There was, Dr. Gottman tells a story about this couple. They were driving. He was driving, and his wife was the passenger. And they were just kind of chatting, and all of a sudden, they got into a heated argument. And it just became silent. She looked out the window, and time went on for about 5 minutes. And then she just went over and she licked the side of his face.
Demo that for them.
But it's kind of strange. So a repair attempt can look like anything that creates humor or breaks the ice, breaks the conflict.
It's like scratching, put a scratch across the record.
Yeah. So practice repair attempts. Figure out what that's going to look like. So my repair attempt is quite different. Marlon usually diffuses with humor. I usually diffuse with physical touch.
Yeah, she gets me every time with that one.
It's because it works. That's his love language, right? So you think that would work well? I'm using his love language to diffuse the conflict, not mine. Yeah.
Another thing that causes conflict, a lot of conflict revolves around unmet needs or unmet dreams being fulfilled, right? And one of the things in our relationship was an unmet dream of my wife.
When I was a little girl, I would sit there with the big atlas book on my lap. I would open it, and I would fold over the pages of all the places I wanted to go to in the world. And I dreamed of being a missionary, helping people. That's what I loved to do. So I thought, combining travel and doing God's work, wow, that would be a dream. To see the world that he created for me to explore. So I had all these plans, and my plan was not to get married till I was in I think I had age 28.
Instead of 21?
Because I wanted to travel, and I wanted to see the world. But then God put this amazing hunk of a man in my life, and I got married. So I just assumed that he loved travel. But guess what? He didn't like travel.
I really, really disliked traveling. See, for me, traveling meant leaving one parent and going to another parent. My parents were divorced, so when I was 5, so I'd always have to travel 12 hours one spouse or one parent would be crying, the other one would be happy, then I have to come back. So it was constantly conflict. So travel had an emotional negative connotation to me. That trauma from my early childhood it was a trigger for me, and I couldn't travel. Not to mention that my grandfather taught me good values, and money, you should put your money in tangible, hard assets. Traveling is such a waste of money. You don't want to waste money traveling. That's just such a foolish thing to do. So we had very different views of what that was with traveling. And to me, it was like, I don't want to travel. So let's travel next year. Well, let's pay off the mortgage. If we pay off the mortgage in 25 years, then we'll travel. That's a good plan, right? In our retirement when we have the time and we have the money. And she's like, no, I want to travel now. I was like,
So I would constantly be making these bids every couple years. Honey, let's travel. We don't have kids. Let's go travel. Let's see the world while we can.
So one of our anniversaries, I decided to surprise her. And you know what I did? I bought the Planet of the Earth DVD series
Planet
for $100.
Earth,
Yeah,
yeah.
Planet Earth. And I bought that and I brought it home. And I said, okay, now we can travel. We can, we'll go. We'll have popcorn and we'll travel all these beautiful spots around. We can go Italy. Oh man, it was incredible. So it didn't go quite according to plan, and it wasn't the best gift that I.
Yes. But you know what the best gift was? I will never forget our first trip together. It was when work paid for your trip, and we went to Niagara Falls. So, I could have thought, oh, it's a work trip. But I was desperate. So I'm like, woohoo, we only have to pay for one flight, so he's for sure going to say yes to let me go with him. So I made bid after bid. Honey, can I please go with you? Please, please. So I thought I wasn't going. I thought he totally didn't accept influence. But the day before he left, he brought a little box, and it had a ribbon around it, and there was no special occasion, so I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I opened it up, and there was a plane ticket inside. You can imagine how excited I was. My husband was accepting influence. So I started to get my hopes up that this would continue. But I'm sad to say it didn't.
Then we did a trip every 10 years. It was pretty.
Yes, at 10 years, we went to Hawaii. And we went to Hawaii. It was beautiful. So his father-in-law was a physician at that time, and there was a physician conference there. So it didn't cost us any money other than our
Perfect,
flights.
right?
So we went after bid, can we please go? Because I thought, all I have to do is pay for our flights, no accommodations for sure. He did accept influence again. But any time I made a bid where we had to pay full fare, accommodations, everything, it didn't happen. So you can imagine, this was one of the hugest conflicts and hurts for me. So the happy story.
Say, people at my work used to say, when I opened my wallet, the queen would squint. And that's true. I was very frugal. Some would call me cheap or not, thrifty, however you want to word that. But I didn't invest in the relationship. I didn't hear that need or that desire of travel was so important to her. And I really hurt her heart by not traveling. And this is just show how bad it was, actually. We actually booked a mission trip. My wife, okay, we're going to do a mission trip. The week before the mission trip, I gave my ticket to Terry LaChance because I was afraid to go. I was afraid. The anxiety and the fear was so bad that I didn't go on the mission trip. So I left my wife to go on a mission trip and without me. So you can imagine the hurt that caused because of my fears. But you know what the Bible says about fear? It says, perfect love casts out all fear, right? And we've not been given a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And when I started loving my wife, and I started about caring about her more than myself, guess what happened? All that fear dissipated. So it left me. I no longer am afraid to fly. I'm no longer afraid to travel. As a matter of fact, I love traveling now.
Hallelujah.
Amen. And now I've got to hold her hand on the flight when it gets a little
Yes.
bumpy, right? Because now she gets a little scared. But I actually enjoy traveling. And we did a cruise. So on our 25th anniversary, when we repaired our relationship, renewed our vows, we did a cruise in the Caribbean. And I was thinking, on this cruise, it was amazing. I don't know what I was thinking for 24 years, because my love language is quality time, which we got a lot of on the cruise, and physical touch, which we had a lot of on the cruise. So it was amazing. It was a win-win thing, and we had an amazing time, and we've done several cruises now, and we enjoy traveling together. But again, because now that I understand how important it is to her, my fear is gone, and I was able to love my wife and to something that we enjoy, spending time together doing traveling. Now we get to travel doing ministry across Canada. So it's one of our greatest fears can turn into one of our greatest opportunities, and that conflict now to create one of our strongest connections that we have when we do that together.
Yeah. So explore each other's dreams. Explore the dreams that your children have, your grandchildren, and dream with them. Figure out a way of how you can actually make those dreams come true. Now, if it's finances that are getting in the way, maybe there's a plan you can have, and start working towards it and caring about fulfilling these dreams and making them come true.
We have that picture up there, reminds me on our cruise, that the cruise ship in the background, and we have this little Hobie in the front. Have anybody been on a Hobie? No, a sailboat or anything? Oh, sailboat, okay. So when we went to the island, we docked and we went to the island and in the Caribbean, there was a Hobie there. I thought, oh, that would be so fun to take the Hobie out, right? So we get in there and we talk to the guy, and he's like, he asked if I talked about renting this Hobie for a couple hours and we could go out. He says, do you have experience? And I said, yes. And it wasn't 100%. I had, when I was like 12, I went with my aunt on a sailboat, and I thought, okay, I've been on a sailboat, I can understand, But I really didn't know how to operate a Hobie. And it was a really windy day. And they said, well, it's pretty windy, I don't know if we should let it out. And they said, okay, you know what, you're experienced, go ahead. So we get out on the ocean, and we're going across the island, and we're just having a blast, and we're just flying around. I don't know how fast it was, but it was the wind was in our face, and it was like, oh, and the blue water and the white sand. It was amazing until we got to the end of the island. And then we got to the end of the island, and it was like I tried to turn around and go back into the wind. It didn't work. It's harder than it looks. And anyways, we started to drift out to sea. And past the end of the island. It was like, so I started to get stressed. And of course, I didn't remember what, the SOS thing, so I'm panicking, and I'm dancing on this thing, trying to see if we can get anybody. And there was a boat in the distant future where people were on vacation relaxing that were kind of drifting past them. And I'm thinking, that's our last chance, or we're going to be shark bait, or we're going to end up, who knows where we're going to end up. And I'm waving, and finally, this little boat from where they rented it from, comes out, puts a rope on, and tows me back. It's a tow of shame. And the people we had met on the cruise, and I'm sitting there getting towed back in our Hobie, and
they're saying,
trying to impress my wife.
Did you have a good time?
So that's not what, when you're on these shared meanings and these dreams, make sure you don't carry them too far where you get yourself in trouble.
Yes, so we want to share some resources with you, some resources that we value and that have really helped on our journey in helping other couples. So the first one is 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. So this is John Gottman's research, all in one book, and it's the information we've shared with you this afternoon. And there's more information in there that we didn't get a chance to share with you.
And Created for Connection. I don't know if anybody's heard of Dr. Sue Johnson. She's probably emotional focus therapy or attachment theory. She's probably she's world renowned. So John Gottman has the most research on this, his Love Lab, and how relationships work in these principles. She's probably one of the most experienced therapists in actual clinical practice. So those two constantly referring to each other. She has the book Hold Me Tight, and it's a series. They do programs. You can go online. There's probably Hold Me Tight in Alberta. They have these programs. It's a weekend getaway, or the book. But somebody approached her. It's actually Kenneth. Kenneth, I can't read it from here, but it's Kenneth. He actually approached her, and he says, "Do you realize that all that your scientific, all your research that you have in your therapy is all based in the Bible? She studied it with him, and they studied it together, and they came up with the book Created for Connection, realizing that we were designed. So this is a scientist that's not a Bible-believing Christian, but she recognized the scriptures and how it applied to all her research. She was blown away. And that Created for Connection is an awesome book. And she actually goes through her experience of learning and applying all the biblical principles to what her research was revealing. So again, that power of science and Bible, how they come together.
And then the 5 love languages, which most people have heard of, especially in the Christian world. So Gary Chapman, he has an app where you can go do the love language test, and then you get your score. If you do that, take a screenshot of each other's. I took a screenshot of my children's, of Marlon's, keep it on my phone. My daughter actually, I have a sneaky suspicion she was listening to the live stream Friday night, because right after she said, she sent me a screenshot of her love language test. And it changed. It used to be quality time and words of affirmation. Now she's following after her mother. It is acts of service, and then her second one is quality time. So you can see how love languages change over time.
And I've been hoping, praying for the last several years that my wife will actually, one day, she's going to do the test and it's come back as physical touch
At
and
the
quality
very
time.
top,
Yes.
yeah.
So so we keep doing it every year just to see if it changes, and it hasn't changed yet. So one day.
No, but it doesn't mean I don't like physical touch. Doesn't mean I don't like to give it or I don't like to receive it. It's just not something on the forefront of my mind. It's not how my mind is wired. But am I intentional about giving it? Absolutely. Because that's how he feels loved. Just by holding his hand, sitting next to him and on the couch, talking with him. So what does, when you do your love language test again, because it changes, depending on what our needs are. If our relationship changes a little bit, our love languages will change to reflect it. So find out what acts of service looks like to you. Find out what quality time looks like to you. So ask each other, what does that look like for you? Honey, what does quality time look like for you?
I thought you were going to ask what physical touch looked like, so that's a much safer question.
It is.
Quality time? Just hanging out with, when you are not cooking and cleaning and talking to me from your back, like I'm having to walk around and chase you to talk, that's not quality time to me. It's actually where we actually sit down and hold hands and look at each other in the eye and have that, creating that connection. And just talking about things that matter, not just talking about all the busyness and craziness of the world, but just, hey, just getting to know you, and that's what I find to be quality time.
Okay, are there any activities that you would put into that, that group of quality time?
Yeah, just hanging out, going for a walk, and we can talk and walk, and just having fun, and going hiking, and whatever that looks like, I'm good as long as we're together. And even quality time doing a relationship seminar, that's quality time. That's fun. I get to sit next to you and hang out.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can think of that might reflect what quality time is to you?
No, pickleball is pretty fun sometimes too.
Okay, yeah, I like that too.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see how I'm asking question after question. What does that look like to you? Are there any things that you like to do that would fall into quality time? Is there anything else? So I'm trying to dig deeper and deeper in the connection, in the conversation. Many times we just say, what does quality time look like to you? And that's where we stop. We don't dig deeper to find out a deeper meaning behind it. So I encourage you to use those open-ended questions that start with what and how. Use the phrase, tell me more. And your spouse will say, oh yeah, we learned that at the seminar. Yeah, tell me more, but still use it. Tell me more. What does that look like for you? And ask those questions just to create that deeper connection and understanding.
One of the things when we learn some of these principles, when I started applying it to our relationship, to try to, again, pursue my wife, it felt pretty clunky. You know, sometimes we expect when we start learning a new habit or a new skill, like playing the piano, we're going to start playing the piano. It's just that we can automatically play it beautifully. But that's not true. We have to learn a skill. We have to learn a new habit. And actually, sometimes it feels uncomfortable. It feels like I'm having to write down what I appreciate or what I admiration and fondness for my wife, or it's kind of feeling like it's a process. But that's okay. We need to retrain and rewire the brain. We need those processes. We need to do it by habit and create new habits. It takes 21 days times 3 to create a new habit. So that's 63 days. So 63 days we can continue through these clunky processes and doing things and pursuing and using these principles. Oh, that kind of felt awkward today. But when we start doing it, it becomes part of us. It becomes a habit. And then we replace those negative, destroying habits with life-giving, loving habits that actually transform the relationship into something amazing.
We hear this often with the couples that we work with. See, we take them through 2 cycles. So all they have to do is continue the 3rd cycle to create the habit. So we're encouraging them to set time aside each week. So two times a week, you're reserving an hour or 2 each time. Start with that. And you're starting to deeply connect. You're doing fun things. You're putting fun things back into the relationship. One time is fun. The other time is connecting, asking the when, how questions. And this one couple we just finished with, they said, we always ask, so, you know, when you look back at our 6 weeks together and your 6 weeks together, what was a highlight for you? And this one couple said, you know, communicating differently was really clunky, like you said at the beginning. But now it's easy. And we really haven't practiced that much, but we've been intentional to reframe our thoughts and retell our story in our mind before we speak. And said it's amazing how we feel so much more connected. We're not in conflict as much, and if we start conflict, we're able to diffuse it. It's quite amazing when we do it. Love is a verb. We need to create that time together every week. We need to put the fun back in, and we need to seek to know each other, turn towards each other daily, appreciate each other.
There was one couple we were talking to last week, and we had shared with them about the 6-second kiss. Have you ever heard of that? That's the scientific amount of time that you need to kiss. Because if you kiss, like, you know, a lot of times we do like a fast food drive-through kind of kiss, and we're done, right?
Peck.
And we're on the way out. But actually, science has shown that 6 seconds takes to create a connection, an emotional bond. So, 6 seconds, how are we going to kiss for 6 seconds? Really easy, man. But it's scientifically proven. You know, the 1-second kiss doesn't create any connection. The 6, and try it sometime if you're brave enough. I would like to, but it creates an emotional connection, yes. And it's something different. It actually, it's that calming, that attachment, that connecting, right? So we shared this with one of the couples, and they're in their 60s, and we talked about when we part, our partings and our reunions are so important. So when we leave for the day, we want to have that 5-minute conversation. How's your day going? And end with that 6-second kiss, right? So this one morning, she said, yeah, she was going out, and normally it's her husband that goes to work. He's a doctor, and he's going to work, and she's at home. But this time, she actually left. So he came to the door and gave her a hug and gave her a 6-second kiss. And she got so flabbergasted, she left and she forgot her wallet, and she was so like, wow.
It was so funny when she was telling us. She said, yeah, my husband's always the one that goes to the office and I stay home. But she said this time he came to me, and she said I was just so flustered and so pleasantly surprised. Yeah. And she said, I said goodbye and I left, and I drove about 10 minutes down the road, and I realized I had to go back to get my purse. So
yeah, we encourage you to try this 6-second kiss.
Yes.
Practice makes perfect
Practice,
too. Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
gotta practice.
Oh, we have practiced in front of groups to show how long it is, but we thought we would spare you the uncomfortable situation. For us, it's not uncomfortable, but
And lastly, this is one of the resources, if you want to, it's the Gottman Card Deck app. You can download it, whatever, if you have an iPhone or an Android app, if you look it up. And it actually just gives you some love maps. So you know what, even when we're on a date right now, sometimes we don't think of all the questions we could ask.
while we're waiting for food,
Yeah,
we'll
I'll bring
pull
up the
this
app
out
and
on-
I'll bring up some love maps, you know. Hey, you know, what's your favorite music group? We never talked about that. I don't know what your favorite is. Who is it now?
It's a Collingsworth
Was it
family.
Collingsworth? Okay, awesome.
yeah.
Just again, so now at, you know what, anniversary or something, I can think, hey, I could get her a CD for Collingsworth, right? So again, take all those love maps, and it's got opportunities for rituals of connection, creating those rituals that keep us connected, having those processes and special date nights. And then it has, it's actually not showing on this, but men, there's a salsa section just below this that you can't see. So that's
Mild, medium, and hot salsa.
yeah, so be careful with those. They're kind of hot, yes, so be careful. But some of the information on here is just, again, to just trigger asking those questions and getting used to reconnecting and taking that time to restore.
They have an open-ended question card deck to really learn how to ask an open-ended question. They have an I feel card deck so that when you're in conflict, you can kind of scroll through and say, oh, okay, I feel and I need. Learning how to express that rather than attacking the person, you're expressing what your needs are. So lots of really good resources. These are just a few of our favorites. And yeah, we just wish all of you to have amazing, happy, healthy, connected, deeply connected relationships. Yeah.
We have 5 minutes. Are there any questions that anybody brave enough or bold enough to ask about any of the things we've talked about today and last night? There's a brave man. Shane, of course. Yes, Shane. Just don't put us on the spot too bad.
Yeah, I was just wondering, regarding the collaborative way of dealing with a conflict,
Yes.
and what you were saying about it, would another suggestion, remedy in that collaborative approach be something like, say, because you'd mentioned Doreen was going to make some muffins or something, that it could still be a win-win situation if the use of the lemon meant making something then that you both collectively, collaboratively agreed to give away.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then you are both benefiting from it, and you're helping someone else. Just
Absolutely.
Awesome.
thought.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's
Yes.
great. And that's the beauty of when you dialogue and create those conversations. And if that's a win-win for both of you, that's awesome.
So one way of gauging whether if you're unsure whether your partner or your child feels like it's a win-win, you can say, so how happy are you with this solution on a scale of 0 to 10? 10 being the most happy, 0 being the least. And if they say, oh, about a 7, then you can ask the what question to dig deeper. So what would make it an 8 or a 9? And then you'll find the rest of the story. And then maybe you can collaborate some more to make it, a 10 for both of you. So that's just one way. In coaching, that's a scale that we use, and that's one way of gauging. We'll ask couples, how emotionally connected do you feel on a scale of 0 to 10? Or how would you rate the quality of your marriage on a scale of 1 to 10? We ask them the same thing at the very end. It invariably goes up just from taking the time to collaborate and to discuss.
Reminds me of one of the questions that we ask our kids and we ask each other now. Honey, did you feel loved by me today?
I did, yes.
Good. Is there anything more I could do to make you feel loved?
Yeah, we can book that trip in December.
Oh, I said, trick me. Oh.
We have fun. We don't always know what each other's going to say, so.
But again, it's that opportunity just to really find out and explore.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't want to hear the answer.
You wanted to hear that answer, though.
That was good. Yes, you loved.
Yeah,
But
that was good.
sometimes they may say, no, I didn't feel loved today. Well, okay, what did I do? What could I do to make you feel loved? Asking those kind of questions, I mean, it creates that deeper bond and connection so that we feel that we're both feeling loved. And it's
Yeah. And
yeah.
be prepared for the answer, because it might not be, oh yeah, I felt loved by you today. I used to ask my kids this question because I was that dominant mother and I caused a lot of hurt. So when I was repairing, when I put them to bed, I was asking this question: did you feel loved by mommy today? And invariably they would say yes, but sometimes they would say no. So I had to be prepared to open my heart to hear what they were going to say and be prepared to ask questions to dig deeper and understand their story and their need.
I think our time is up. It's 4:30. Why don't we end in a word of prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, we just want to thank you for the gift of love and relationships, Lord, that you gave us in the beginning in the Garden of Eden, Lord. We know that there's things that separate us and where the enemy is trying to attack and destroy relationships in this time. Lord, I just ask that each person here and those people within our church, Lord, that they would commit to the time and just improving and growing in their relationships, Lord. And we just want to thank you for your mercy and your grace and forbearance with us. And Lord, as we appreciate that gift of love and mercy and forbearance, may that flow out to those around us, whether it's our spouses or our children, or whether it's our siblings or church members, Lord. Just give us that love that only can come from you, so that we can love unconditionally. We can find out what true love is, and that we can ultimately reflect the character of Christ, which is in the image of love. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us, and have a rest. Enjoy some of that beautiful weather outside, and go maybe for a walk. And you can have some of those, build some love maps and connection while you're going for a nice walk.